While there is this kind of theoretical ideal of spending 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day on learning a language, you don't need to spend that long. And one of the main reasons for that is... Hello everybody and welcome back to the Story Learning podcast. I hope you're having a great week. A lot of exciting things happening in the story learning world at the moment. We have begun development of our story learning app. Quite excited to talk about this more when the time is right. We have a small group of beta testers at the moment who are helping us with the app. But I'm so excited because I feel like it's right back at the beginning, the early days of story learning, all over again when I'm sort of thinking about writing the first book or building the first course. Like, really exciting, a lot more to come on that. I've been sent the final cover for our short stories in Mandarin book. I've also just received this, which is really exciting. It is you can see this if you're watching this on video. This is the short stories in Latin. I've got the final proof of the book here. For anyone who doesn't know what Latin looks like, well, it looks a little bit like this, kind of easy. It's got the Latin script, obviously, because that's where the Latin script comes from. So that's really cool to see that coming together. That's coming out soon, along with a bunch of other languages. So really exciting stuff. I will keep you up to date with all various developments as they come about. But today we are continuing this series of responding to objections or questions that come up around the story learning method. Because I've been putting out a lot of content recently on my main YouTube channel at Story Learning about different ways of learning. For example, the idea of learning through stories, how it works in the first place, but also the idea that you can learn a language in just 15 minutes a day. And that's what we're going to focus on here. And it's a question that comes through from LP Slipstick Fan 4. What a handle. This sounds like some sort of Eminem lyrics or something. LP Slipsticks down. I can't even say it. 4. Anyway, LP says, do you think that 15 minutes are enough to improve your skill? I do not think so. All right then, shots fired. So, learning language in 15 minutes a day. So let's work this through from the beginning and make sure we're talking about the same kind of thing. So let me tell you about the reason that I fail in my language learning exploits, right? If I'm learning a language and I fail, why does that happen? Is it because the language is so hard that I can't wrap my tiny little brain around it? Typically, no, although that does happen from time to time. Is it because I can't read the script? The script is too hard for me and I can't learn enough characters? No. Is it because I try and sit down and study for 6 hours a day and I can't find the time? No. The reason that I fail in language learning, and I dare say the reason that many, many people out there will struggle with language learning, is not that they find it difficult. It's that what happens is I sit down to study one day and then the cat knocks over a cup of water all over my books and I have to spend the next half an hour clearing everything up. Or I get sick and I don't do the studying that I was supposed to. Or I go for a whole week without doing anything and then I try to catch up with a marathon session at the weekend and then it's really kind of burned out. Or I get really busy at work and I can't. You get the idea, right? While there is this kind of theoretical ideal of spending 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day on learning a language, you don't need to spend that long. And one of the main reasons for that is that there's no rush. There's no rush. No one should be in a rush to become fluent because the journey is so much more enjoyable than the actual result. The journey just works on us so much, right? And so for most people, if you said, look, you don't have to study for 6 hours a day, you could just study for 1 hour a day and you would be fluent in this language in, 1 year, 2 years. Most people would take that trade-off in a second. But even doing 1 hour a day, for most people, most of the time, it's very difficult to stay very, very consistent. And so what happens is we set ourselves this target of studying for an hour a day. And invariably, life gets in the way. And what do you know? We're now 3 days have gone by and we don't study. And so we think, oh, well, I've missed the last 3 days. What's the point of studying today? And before you know it, 3 months has gone past and we've done nothing. This is the uncomfortable truth about how language learning works for most people. We really study to be consistent. And so in the tough, cold, hard reality of gritty language learning, we have to confront the question, how can we best make sure that we are improving and moving towards our goals and that we don't fall off the horse and we don't just spend 3 months without doing anything. Because the thing that you do for 15 minutes a day consistently is going to beat the 6-hour marathon thing that you do at the weekend every day of the week, right? My PT says the only bad workout is the one you don't do. Right? As long as you get in the gym and do something and move, then you've won, right? And so it's similar with language learning. And so much of the time, like when people are coming for help with language learning, what we see is that they've really got in their head with something, they've lost motivation for whatever reason, they're just not doing the work, or at least they're not doing it consistently. And so that is progress can't happen in those circumstances. And so the idea of 15 minutes, when I say something like you can learn a language in 15 minutes a day, what I'm really saying is you could do something meaningful in that time that will move you forward. And if your starting point here is to compare 15 minutes a day with an hour a day, then I understand what LP's Slipstick Fan 4 is saying. Do you think that 15 minutes are enough to improve your skills? I do not think so. I understand the point. But if we develop this a little bit further and say, right, well, okay, you might not have an hour a day, but you definitely have 15 minutes a day. And I dare say you might have three times 15 minutes a day. All right, so 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at lunch, 15 minutes in the evening. You'd have to be pretty busy, pretty flat out in order to not be able to find 15-minute chunks of time, right? So can you do something meaningful in 15 minutes? Yes. The answer is yes, as you'd expect me to say since I made videos about it. And let me walk you through how I think that would happen. And when I'm really busy, this is exactly what I do, right? So the first step is to commit because, all right, you can do a lot in 15 minutes a day. You've got to make sure it happens. And so I would actually put in my calendar on a daily basis 3 lots of 15-minute sessions. And when you're doing something like this, it really helps to use something like a planner of some kind. I recommend my language goal planner. It's completely free. You can download it from a link in the description. What it helps you do is just set some intentions for what you're going to do and then measure yourself against them, kind of tick them off as you go. It's ridiculously simple, but it's amazing how much some brief intentions can actually do, right? So go and download that if you'd like some help actually being consistent and sticking to it. So I would start by setting 3 15-minute sessions a day, and then I would decide what I'm going to do in those 15-minute sessions and commit to it in advance. Here's the kind of thing I would do. In the morning, I would try to get input of some kind. And this could be like you wake up, you're lying in bed, you don't want to get up just yet. And so what you do is you put on your podcast or your short story audio, whatever it may be, audio lesson from your course, and you just listen to it for 15 minutes. If it's short, like 3 or 4 minutes, listen to it on repeat 3 times over. That is meaningful, right? That's meaningful interaction with the language for those 15 minutes. Now, maybe that's all you've got time for. Great. So lunchtime comes and you've got another 15 minutes. What do? Answer, repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill. I think Tony Robbins said that. He was right. So having listened to something for 15 minutes in the morning, listen to it again at lunch. Yeah, I know this is simple, but listen to it again. Because what happens is your brain has been processing stuff in the background, whether you know it or not. And so when you revisit it a few hours later at lunch, you're going to pick up on more stuff, right? So what I might do is sit down, listen for 15 minutes, and ideally you're focused during this time, right? You're not doing the washing up at the same time. You're focused and you're listening again to the same thing you listened to in the morning, except this time maybe you're reading along with the transcript at the same time. Maybe you're like looking up a couple of words that you don't know. Maybe a little bit more intensive, interactive studying during that time, right? So now what have we done? In the morning we've got exposure. We've got some immersion in the language. Just listening over and over again. At lunchtime, we've revisited it. So we're listening again. We're being a bit more intentional. Maybe writing down a few vocabulary items, maybe underlining something, looking up something in the dictionary, whatever it may be. Some more intensive, focused work on that same material from the morning. And then it gets to the evening and you've got another 15 minutes. What do? In the evening, I would like to do some kind of production. All right, so rather than listening or reading, I'd like to do some kind of production in some way. So maybe what you do is you try to take some of what you've been listening to during the day and you try to write it out from memory. Maybe you do 15 minutes of flashcards, trying to memorize some of the vocabulary from the passage, whatever you've been reading. Maybe you spend 15 minutes on an AI chat app like our friends at Langua, for example, and you spend 15 minutes talking in Japanese or whatever with the AI on the topic of the thing that you've been reading or listening to during the day. Now, you try, if you can do that every day for 3 lots of 15 minutes, I defy you not to make huge amounts of progress, right? You will, because what we've got in there is we've got meaningful input in the morning where you're just listening or you're reading to something useful over and over again. Then you've got review in the lunchtime when you're going back through that again and paying attention. And then in the evening, you've got some production or some practice of some kind where you're taking the stuff you've been listening to or reading, and then you are creating language, you're outputting language with that. The next day, you might choose to do the exact same thing again with the exact same material. And guess what? It's going to go in deeply, going to go in deeper, more deeply when you come back to it the next day. It doesn't matter. But those kind of 15-minute bursts can be incredibly productive because what you're doing is you are bringing it back over and over and over again. And that's how your brain can learn huge amounts of things, right? Again, some planning is important here. If you wanted to try this out, like I wouldn't recommend you just wake up tomorrow morning and see what you feel like. I would choose the material you're going to use straight away, right? So either you grab the short story book or you download the podcast you're going to use, or you print off the Wikipedia article you want to read, whatever it may be, get it ready. You might want to write it down in the goal planner, which again, you can download free from the link in the description. Write it down so you know what you're going to be doing, have it ready, be prepared, and then just do that thing for 15 minutes. Come back to it at lunchtime, come back to it in the evening. It really can be that simple. So when LP Slipstick Down 4 says, do you think that 15 minutes are enough to improve your skills? The answer is a resounding yes. But it takes some intentionality, right? One of the fastest ways to screw that up, for example, would be to pick something that is too hard for you. So if you try to listen to War and Peace at 6:30 in the morning while you're not going to learn very much, right? So this comes back to the principle of comprehensible input as well. We want to be selecting material that's at your level. So one of the things that I would often do is listen to a Japanese podcast with a couple of people chatting where I can understand a good deal of it already. Like that for me is comprehensible input that I'm interested in. So we do need to select the right material. That's the key thing to do, and then plan what we're going to do. Now, I gave you a 3-part routine there, right, which involved input and then repetition and then output over the course of a day. That's just an example. You can do anything. And really the main heuristic here is whatever you find to be effective for yourself, right? If you know that something works for you, do it. Don't listen to me. Just go and do that thing that's effective. But remember, and this is really the key point, we'll end with this, the 15 minutes you do every day beats the 1 hour a day that you never do every single time. And so that's really the premise behind this whole thing. If you disagree, if you'd like more inspiration, if you need more ideas, whatever, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you back in the next episode of the Story Learning Podcast.